What up, everybody? This is the Maintenance Sucks podcast. As we all know, property maintenance sucks, but that is not a toppy story. And boy, do we have a story for you today. My name is Taylor Coleman, your host and co-founder of Toppy. It's an exciting day today. This guy, one of the top people in the industry, rock star, everybody's favorite boy toy. For anybody who doesn't know, the man sitting in the chair next to me, the former national sales director at Property Safe, aka maintenance manager, BDM extraordinaire, and not just one, but two companies where he found a way to make tax depreciation sexy, and the current head of strategic partnerships and growth at Sensor Global. Mr. Anthony Booth, everybody. Welcome.
Thanks, mate. I'm surprised you remember that title because I certainly don't. But thanks for having me along. Excited.
Very excited. And how are you? What's
mate,
the news?
Going well, thank you. Going well. Good start of the year, 2024. Mm-hmm. Things are looking up.
Very good.
Yeah.
Love it. So what do you think? First one ever.
Mate, I was just saying to Tal before, this is, it's very unique. It's looking good.
Unique in a good way though, right?
Yeah. Not in a bad way. In a good way. We couldn't afford stuff like this at Maintenance Manager. It was well and truly out of our reach.
Well, and that's what it's all about. Now we got you here to talk all the good things, and should we dive right in?
Tell some stories. Yeah, absolutely.
So, big part of this podcast going forward is every person that comes on, we're going to talk about maintenance, right? It's the whole idea. Property maintenance sucks. So, why does property maintenance suck from your perspective?
Mate, it sucks big time. I'm glad I'm out of that space, to be honest. I think that the big thing with maintenance is it's so time sucking from a PM's perspective. Like you just, some of the shit that used to come through as requests, you just bang your head against a brick wall and just go, how does that happen? But yeah, maintenance is it just sucks.
And that's a good leeway for it, because when you're working at maintenance manager, I mean, you've probably seen thousands and thousands of maintenance stories. I know you do a lot of work around the house as well, so probably dealt with a couple as well. From your perspective, what is the most horrific maintenance story that you have self-dealt with or somebody else that you've heard of from some of the clients you worked with over the years?
Look, horrific stories, you hear of death traps and all that sort of stuff in homes. You've got people that have fallen through decks, fallen off balconies because railings weren't at the right height. Yeah, just your normal everyday stuff. You know, people wanting to lodge repairs for the fact they can't flush a toilet because they've put too much toilet roll down there, or they've dumped a big juice, whatever it may be. It's just, it's typical stuff. People that don't know how to use incinerators in kitchen sinks and they jam other stuff down there that's not meant to be broken up into tiny little pieces by some spinning blades. Just stuff like that. It's just, silly shit. So, yeah, horrific stories. Look, sometimes they lead to deaths and all that sort of stuff, but I'm sure we don't want to go down that path.
Yeah, let's stay away from that. Keep it light.
Yeah, well, we'll leave that for the, deep and dark secrets of maintenance in another session. But, yeah, just your normal everyday stuff. Like, why isn't the power turned on? Why is it that, the carpets have an iron mark in the middle of the floor because some idiot decided to try and, straighten their hair or iron something on the ground instead of buying an ironing board, whatever it might be. I've even had, or heard of tenants that, a light switch won't turn on and then they try and problem solve it and it's simply just a light globe that's been blown and they don't know how to change a light globe. So, yeah, that sort of stuff. But, yeah, there's always going to be a story, and someone's going to have a far better story than I do about maintenance. I saw many requests come through the Maintenance Manager platform over the 5.5 years that I was there. But, some of the stuff I'm glad I didn't know about, and there's others that you just hear of and you just piss yourself with laughter because they're that stupid. But you can't help that. So, yeah, that's pretty much, for maintenance.
Tenants reporting maintenance may not be unnecessary. We have landlords that may want to do it themselves. That's a lot of different avenues that a PM has to deal with, right? And I think it's interesting from your perspective, really leading the charge at Maintenance Manager for all those years. So you've met with thousands of companies. You've seen multiple different types of agencies and their structures and how to handle maintenance.
Yep.
From your perspective, what would you say for our listeners today are the top tips when it comes to dealing with maintenance as an agency?
Get on the front foot. Be proactive, not reactive, first and foremost. some people think they run tight ships when it comes to their policies and procedures and processes within their business. Yeah. Then they see a workflow solution like Maintenance Manager, and obviously now Tarpy, that's just, come out from underneath a rock in some spaces. And doing good things, of course, people. If you're not using Tarpy, please have a look.
There you go. I was going to say that. Going just like a small little rock. Can we be a boulder?
There's a plug. But like back in the day, it was just, you think about the amount of shit that property managers go through every day, the number of hats that they wear. They're not just collecting rent. They're not just inspecting a property once every 3 months. They're not just, being there to look after or babysit a property. They're out there wearing so many different hats. They're dealing with tenants, landlords, trades, other shit's going on in their background. They've got personal lives. They've got a work life, all that sort of stuff as well. But then when it came to streamlining those processes, building in a workflow that actually took the stress out of maintenance and made things easier, that's where Maintenance Manager certainly set the standard at an early stage. And it was just, there was a number in a box. The concept was working by the rule of exception. You see something, at the end of the day, if there's nothing in any one of those boxes, and having seen the Tarpy platform, very much the same concept, it just took that stress away from people's lives. From a property manager's perspective, it helped tenants understand that, hey, you don't have to report everything. There is the opportunity to triage things and work out some common sense applications to your normal everyday stuff that goes on in your own home. And then, just trying to make people's lives that little bit easier. And that whole automation around following up, getting quotes, paying invoices, all that sort of stuff, and making people more accountable as well. So there was plenty of that going on, and just because someone experienced something down the road didn't mean that someone else, 2 streets away wasn't experiencing the same thing, or 2 suburbs or 2 states. Everyone's dealing with the same kind of scenario every day of the week.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you talked about, right? Accountability, that's a big one. Systems, automation. But we touched on where a big issue that comes up is how the PM's actually dealing with the landlord, right? From your perspective, how important is that with the relationship with the landlord when it comes to managing maintenance?
Well, that's where your main relationship needs to be. Although property managers aren't managing properties, they're managing people of sorts. They're probably more tenancy managers than property managers, but they are dealing with tenants and landlords and trades. But that relationship with the landlord, they need to set the boundaries early on, understand the pain points, not just from a PM perspective, tenant perspective and landlord perspective, but being able to understand, okay, how far can we go with this particular landlord? What size kitty do they have set up for things that go bad? So hot water systems, air conditioners, those bigger ticket items that are going to cost them a bit of money. Emergency scenarios like blocked toilets, power outages, whatever it might be, those sorts of things. But that relationship needs to be strong. And they need to enforce their boundaries early on. So 1, the landlord knows where they stand, and 2, they know where the landlord stands as well. Same with the tenants. They can't have the tenants taking the mickey out of them all the time, just putting through shitty little requests to say, hey, I can smell pot coming from the, place next door. Can you do something about it? Can you call the police for me? It's just silly things like that. Or, I read an article the other day about a lady with a newborn, or baby hadn't even been born yet, and she was freaking out about tears in fly screens because she thought the baby may be able to just push through the fly screen and fall out the window or something. It's like, I don't know what these people are on, but it's different cultures, it's different scenarios, it's different demographics, all that sort of stuff as well that play a part. But that relationship needs to be strong between the PM and the landlord.
I think it's a key point you made, right? About there's different demographics, you're dealing with different types of people in different areas. You can be dealing with a landlord who's super low touch, who just says, hey, take my property, I don't need it. You may have someone that you need to call, every single day. And I think it's important, you've obviously had a very distinguished career as a business development manager. You've run multiple sales organizations now as well. And whether I'm a BDM that's bringing on an initial landlord, or I'm just a property manager actually nurturing that relationship. So you've already talked about setting boundaries. I think that's a really big thing that people struggle with. But I'm curious from your perspective, as a relationship manager, the BDM is listening to this, or just a property manager trying to fill that gap with their landlords, what are your big tips for just managing relationships as a whole?
Well, people that know me, I'm going to ignore that. We're not going down that path just yet.
It's a safe space.
Yeah. No. I think that relationship building process. Look, there's people that react to phone calls better than texts and emails. Mm-hmm. There's others that just want to, just send me an email. Just put it in writing. That's another thing. Make sure you put everything in writing. Another big point. But just being able to have that conversation.
We should double underline that, by the way. Have everything in writing.
Yeah, everything in writing.
Very important thing.
But yeah, some people, as you say, are low touch, right? It's like, Taylor, here's my property. Just do what needs to happen. Nearly dropped the F-bomb. Just do what needs to happen. Get it done. Don't bother me. I don't need to hear about it. There's others that want to know about every single cent that's being spent on the property. They want to review it. They want to approve it. They want 3 quotes from trades. They're just pains in the ass as a landlord. And I'm sure there's plenty of them out there. PMs just need to understand what type of landlord they are, do everything they can to appease them without, wasting time, all that sort of stuff, because 2 things you never get back in life. 1's your time, 2's your taxes. But it's just one of those things. You've just got to work out early on what type of landlord they're going to be and manage it as best you can. And some are local landlords. Others are interstate. Some are overseas, and everything's got to be via email, text at odd hours of the night, day, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. But yeah, not every landlord's the same. Not every property's the same. Not every tenant's the same. It's just a matter of working out where they sit and how you're going to work with them moving forward. Otherwise, piss them off.
And I think it's a big thing, right, that you talk about. So kind of summarize that. One, like you said, and I think a lot of people struggle with this because I hear this very often, setting boundaries up front about the level of service, understanding your client, so really understanding that discovery process up front, and then providing a great level of service.
Yep.
So those are the key 3?
Yep. And the other thing is, too, you can't please everyone.
Yep.
You're always going to have some little negative Nancy that doesn't like how you do things, and they're probably the ones that shouldn't be landlords, shouldn't be part of your portfolio, and can chuff off down the road to someone else.
Absolutely. And that's what Jen's for, right?
Absolutely.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, cheers, brother.
Cheers, mate.
That is the end of the first segment of the Toppy Maintenance Sucks podcast. I'm going to take a drink real quick. So for our listeners, we're going to take a quick break so we can fill up Anthony's cup, and then we'll be back to teach you a little bit more about the Anthony booth. Sound good?
Cool.
Hello, everybody. Special edition of the We All Know Maintenance Sucks, but That's Not a Toppy Story podcast. We are here live at the RPMA event in Auckland, New Zealand, and we have an exciting announcement to announce our winners in New Zealand and Australia for the Not a Toppy Story giveaway. So we have 4 amazing stories that property managers all across the globe in New Zealand and Australia have submitted. So let's read them off. First is Steph. Steph is actually a current Toppy client, which is amazing and very fun to read for me. So, tenant rang in an extreme distress, advising the backyard had an infestation of snakes. Snakes were everywhere. She couldn't settle the tenant, and they had locked their kids inside for their safety until they sent a snake catcher. They were asked to submit their request in writing with a photo if possible. They advised they caught some of the snakes and photographed them. ... Slugs. They were slugs. Amazing stuff. The second one, and again, another incredible Toppy client, Shari Jones. A tenant called the property management team in a panic about a strange noise in their bathroom. When the maintenance team arrived, they were surprised to find a possum causing havoc. The possum had knocked over toiletries, shredded toilet paper, turned on the faucet, creating a mini waterfall. As the team tried to catch it, the possum activated the bidet, spraying water everywhere and soaking the bathroom. Eventually, they had to call a professional animal wrangler to capture and release the possum. Despite the chaos, everyone ended up laughing at the absurdity of the situation, turning a maintenance nightmare into a memorable and funny story. Shari, love that one. That is amazing. And to our New Zealand winners, so starting with Shaban, a tenant reported that there was a house that was demon-possessed when the landlord, being the Catholic Church, They reported that when they turned the lights in the bathroom, blood and feathers rained down on them. It turned out they rarely turned on the extractor fan. So one day when they went to turn the lights and fan on, it minced up a bird that had formed a nest in the extractor fan. Glad to say the house did not need an exorcism, but it was definitely a scene out of a horror film. That is wild. Oh my God. And then the last one, Samantha buys. Love Samantha over at Summit. Again, been with Toppy for a very long time. Great to hear from Samantha. I sent the plumber to fix the toilet. He left the screw out of the tap because the tenant was away. She asked me to check on the house, and I arrived to discover a massive leak and the house covered in mold. A broken toilet turned into a full reno. So again, thank you guys for submitting the stories. Those are our two winners over New Zealand and Australia. Thank you guys, and you'll see us back in the podcast in the next event.